Welcome back to One of the Trenches podcast. I'm Johnny Jones. He's Patches Kaplan. We're here to recap week 9 and then preview week 10. But first off, right before we started recording, we were just saying, can you believe it's week 10? First college football playoff rankings coming out November 4th. Like you
Crazy.
blink and we're here, man. It's crazy.
No, it really is. It's like, some
Yeah.
weeks are pass by weeks, and then other weeks are I can't leave my couch. And now before
Yeah.
you know it, we're at week 10. It is truly kind of crazy. I'll never forget last year, you and I were streaming the college football show as it was being released.
Yes.
We're going to do the exact same thing because that is as electric as it gets. Johnny, before we jump into anything here, I'm just going to move my mic a little bit closer. Before we jump into anything here, I had a prediction last week where I told you LSU was going to open up, and it did.
Yeah.
And
props to you, man.
I saw
your
it from
guy,
a mile.
Brian Kelly.
I'm embarrassed to claim that he was my guy. I was. Have you seen the reports that are coming out about how much of a jerk he is? Do you see that one clip where his face turned literally purple when he was yelling at a wide receiver back in 2011?
There's nasty things coming out. There's even the whole R.I.P. Kyron Lacey, that whole thing. They say he didn't even talk to the fam. There is crazy stories coming out of Baton Rouge about Brian Kelly. But I think for you, man, you just got to say it's just a phase. Your Brian Kelly time was just a phase, man. You're past it. You're out.
No, we are. We're on to bigger and better things. My concern is that Marcus Freeman is eyeing that LSU job. I don't believe he is. I do love and respect the hell out of coaches who are signing extensions or claiming their allegiance to their universities, like Dan Lanning. Marcus Freeman said something on Tuesday. Matt Rule just signed one about 7 hours ago. Yeah, no, and I just love to see it. But, I'm going to start with that game. There was not an ounce of me who thought that game was actually close, even though LSU was winning at halftime.
So, Texas A&M 49 at LSU 25, just for the listeners. Yeah, I don't know, man. I'm just really impressed with what a job Mike Elko has done at A&M. Yeah. And I know 49 points. I know we can talk all day about Marcel Reed and that offense and how explosive they've been all season. But I don't know, just very impressed that defense in the second half, just holding it down. There's a lot of questions about if they could, hold up in big games. And I know LSU now dropped a couple, so it might not be a huge game. But still, this LSU team is super talented top to bottom. That's a really, really tough win in Death Valley.
Yeah, I mean, not leaving it to the fourth quarter is all that I really care about, to show that you're a lot better than them. I love to see what I saw out of the defensive line. I think that there are a few teams who are just getting continuously better week in and week out. Alabama is one of them. Texas A&M is one of them. Notre Dame is one of them. And I love to see Texas A&M's defense kind of buckling it in. Their defensive line is scary. But like you said, going into LSU, going into Death Valley is never easy, no matter how good or bad LSU is. It's the same thing as going into Gainesville, right? Georgia may win by 10 points, and everyone's going to be like, you only beat Florida by 10 points. But in reality, going into Gainesville, the Georgia-Florida rivalry, it's going to be a hell of a game. It's going to be intense.
I just think we'll get into it. We're going to talk about the playoff picture today, but I just think there's a lot of teams in the SEC, like South Carolina, LSU, Florida, these teams, even in a couple weeks, you might say this about Oklahoma, but these teams that have a couple losses, but that doesn't really show how good these teams are. Just this SEC, the season is such a gauntlet that there's going to be very, very talented teams with a couple of losses. So, I don't think you can take anything away from this LSU. This LSU team, has a couple losses, but still an impressive win for Texas A&M.
Yeah, I mean, I like to look at, they covered the spread handedly, and I thought that was, remarkably impressive. But I'm giving A&M everything that they deserve. I thought they earned that win. I thought they're a really, really good team. I think they're in the driver's seat for the SEC. They ultimately got Brian Kelly fired, but I think another one of the takeaways is how toxic LSU can be. They were booing Brian Kelly in the middle of the third. Half their fans left in the beginning of the fourth. It's embarrassing to see. It's embarrassing when you brag about something and then you don't keep up with it, even though you're getting smoked. Harold Perkins is non-existent in big games. It's comical to see how bad he's botched his college career. But I'm tipping my cap off to A&M. That was a remarkable win.
I want one Brian Kelly question for you because I've always been a Notre Dame hater, from birth.
Rightfully so. I guess I was always blinded a little bit by how annoying, ignorant, and pompous he was as a Notre Dame coach. I didn't follow college football nearly to the degree I do now when he was the coach. So I kind of turned a blind eye, but
But just being a Notre Dame hater, like I always hated Brian Kelly, even though he's a Mass guy. He grew up down the street, Andover. He went to St. John's Prep, which is like right next to my grandparents. Like so, he was always kind of around like my life. And then like obviously like being a manager, him with that whole manager fiasco, I always had reasons to hate Brian Kelly. And it seemed like from the get go, this LSU fan base hated him. So I just wanted to ask, like, when you were in it with Notre Dame, did you think he was that villain everyone else saw, or like? I don't know. Like, I feel like did you buy it? Like, because he is a good coach. Like at the end of the day, like he took Notre Dame to a national championship, took them to some very successful seasons. So he is a good coach. But how did you feel about like I don't know. I don't know where I'm going.
It was a weird situation because and this is always 2020, right? Like I'm looking in hindsight. At the time, I was incredibly upset that he left. I thought it was shady. I thought what he did was wrong. Why would you ever leave Notre Dame for, LSU? You're not an LSU guy. You came from Cincinnati, and I like to think back on it, and we're in different time periods too, right? Like mid 2010s. College football was very, very cutthroat when you and I were in college versus what it is now, where coaches kind of have to be players coaches more than anything. And Brian Kelly is certainly not a players coach, but it is comical when James Franklin got fired. Nick Saban went out publicly and was like, "James, you're a great guy." All of his players were like, Jim, you're a great coach, you're a great person. I want to learn from you. Almost as if
locker room was going crazy. The locker room like understood it, but they were like, everyone was like, this guy just meant so much for my development. And you saw that. And
in Brian Kelly, Johnny David said, no one has said a single positive thing about Brian Kelly. And I heard a story, and this is the last thing I want to say about Brian Kelly, is that I heard when he got the LSU job, he was recruiting for Notre Dame. He was in someone's living room.
Yes.
And he basically didn't say a single word following that. He let all the assistant coaches talk. He finished dinner, he left. Didn't say a single word, and then accepted the LSU job minutes later.
Yeah, crazy.
It's just embarrassing. I always wonder when this type of stuff happens. Brian Kelly's done forever. He'll never be a head coach again. Just like Jimbo. There's no way you can leave the legacy, the bad legacy that he left with LSU. All that he did that was good at LSU, only about 3, maybe 4 games. All that he did was good in Notre Dame and Cincy is gone. It's gone.
I want to believe that because I hate Brian Kelly. I want to believe that.
What happens, Johnny?
But if he is Penn State's part of me. What happens if he's Penn State's coach?
I heard he is a leading candidate.
So good. I love the troll job you're doing.
But I swear to God, swear to goodness gracious, I read a report that said he is in top 3 candidate.
Okay, I don't know what that report's from. I haven't seen that, and I've been very locked into this coaching search. But you know me.
I'm gonna Google it.
I'm king of the narrative. If he becomes Penn State's coach, I'm running with. Can you imagine if he won a chip at Penn State and he didn't at Notre Dame, how much that would kill you?
One more time.
Can you imagine if he won a chip at Penn State when he couldn't at Notre Dame, how much that would kill you? Because I would be rooting for that. I'm king of the spin zone, man. I would just ride with that. I would just go with that the whole time. I haven't seen that report. Maybe you're right. Maybe you're right. That would be crazy. I haven't seen that. So I don't think that will be the case.
It's called the Right Wing Network. Posted it about 2 days ago. I know I didn't see it there.
Network. What is that? Is that college football? Is that like a political or like a college football? Like what is that?
No, it was like the right, like WRIGHT.
Oh, I was like, dude, what are we doing? It's so interesting. I don't know. I haven't seen that.
It is interesting when that type of stuff happens because like his marketability is going to be down. James Franklin's up. James Franklin came out and basically said, I did not do a good enough job, but I still think I'm a great coach.
Humble.
He was. I've kind of changed my opinion on James Franklin. I want, after seeing, I like to come back when I think of college coaches is, and I have children and, eventually, hopefully I get a boy and he's at the point where he's playing college football. And I would like to say, do I trust this guy enough to coach my son for 4 years, right? Is this the type of coach that you would invite to your wedding?
Yeah.
Brian Kelly, no. James Franklin, yes. Marcus Freeman, yes. Nick Saban, yes. Like, all those coaches are coaches that you would.
Urban Meyer?
No.
Okay.
No shot.
I agree with that. And I think James Franklin's going to be very successful in his next stop. Because I heard our boy, Brandon Walker, he said something. Yeah, I saw a clip on Instagram. And he's talking about like some colleges, the goal, the ceiling is a national championship. Some is a conference championship, some is a playoff berth. And I think Penn State is by doing this, by this firing, is saying, hey, James Franklin, thank you for all that you did, but our goal is a national championship. And I think other schools, the goal is just to get in the playoffs. And I think James Franklin will get you there. And I think James Franklin will be a great coach at a place like Virginia Tech or Wisconsin or maybe even like Stanford. Like these schools that they do have the ability to be very successful. They just need the right guy. And I think James Franklin will go to a school like that and be very, very, very successful.
Yeah, no, I think you're spot on. I think that James Franklin will get another head coaching job. Someone like Billy Napier will not. Mike Gundy's done for life. Deshaun Foster won't get another job. It's unfortunate, but it's the guy's honest truth. Their best guess is to become a coordinator, but I don't think they will. We'll talk a little bit more about the coaching carousel come later on. Speaking of Brandon Walker, Texas at Mississippi State.
Oof.
Mississippi State had everything go their way and everything turn against them very, very quickly. I think they were up 16 points with 10 or 12 minutes left.
Yeah. I think
special teams comes into play. Special teams accounts for about 25% of all the plays in a football game. It sounds like it's a made-up stat, but it's really not. It's Texas stinks. Texas is not a good football team.
No, but I don't know. Like, they found a way to win. Like Ryan Niblett, that punt return, like electric stuff. It just sucks for Mississippi State because they're another team that, like what I was saying about like South Carolina and LSU, where like this is a very good football team, and they've shown it. Like that win against Arizona State, that was ballsy stuff. This game, they were in it to the end, despite having like a huge talent gap between this Texas and Mississippi State team, and it just kind of sucks they couldn't find a way to win that game because man, do they deserve to win it. But I don't know. Texas's offense, and like when we talk about the playoff picture, we'll talk about Texas. They're still not dead, even though I don't think they're not. A great team.
Are you falling into the same trap that I am, where I'm like, Texas is really good. It's just they haven't caught their wind yet.
I just don't believe their offense is good. Their defense is. I'm just like, dude, it's so good.
The next time they play, it's November, and I'm thinking to myself, if you haven't caught your wind by November, you're not gonna catch sail.
Well, I don't know. Like, what do you do with Arch right now if you're Texas?
I think he's hurt. He's going to transfer this year, I think.
I know, but like, how many times can we just say he's hurt? If he's hurt,
no, I think he's in concussion protocol.
Okay, but I'm saying like in the past couple of weeks, I feel like every week he plays bad, we hear he's hurt. I know like this is like legit, but I'm just talking about in weeks past. It's like I don't know. You put so much money and time into him, but at some point it's like, man, is this guy gonna do it? I don't know.
No, I'm with you on that one. I don't think he is the guy. I don't think that they have any offensive identity. And not going to jump into next week, but I think this week they're going to run into problems. Our boys over at Binghamton, is it Binghamton Young or Brigham Young?
No, Brigham Young. Can we make sure it's Binghamton Young though? That'd be sick. BYU. Yeah, no, BYU. Yeah. Bear Bachmeier, man.
It's crazy. They're rolling. They're still not in the top 10 in the AP poll, but they are 7-0. They've absolutely dominated teams. They have a tough matchup this week, I believe. I'm drawing a blank on who they did, but they dominated ISU. They dominated Iowa State. Iowa State had that game in their back pocket, and BYU came by, took it.
Okay, you and me are honest, guys, and I think right now we have to take a second to be honest about the Big 12 and how wrong we were. Because you and me, that first episode, we're talking about Iowa State, we're talking about Baylor, we thought that Iowa State, Kansas State game in Ireland was going to decide the conference.
Yeah, we did.
Man, it's been a crazy season. Like, specifically just in the Big 12. Like,
well, I mean, if you look at this matchup for all week, Johnny, like we thought Penn State, Ohio State was going to be a national championship preview.
But is Matt Campbell right now coaching himself out of a top job?
Oh, no. His roster is hurt. And that is so evident. I think he's missing 5 defensive starters right now.
It's just a bummer right now. Being 5-3, this was a team I thought could win the whole thing. Not the whole thing. I mean, the whole Big 12.
Yeah, no, I get you. I thought so too. I don't know if BYU was it. I think Utah still might be the betting line favorite to win the Big 12, which is crazy. I think they're all pretty close to 3-1.
Texas Tech?
I think they're all like very, very close. Texas Tech got dominated on the line of scrimmage by Arizona State. And then Arizona State went out and lost a week later.
Yeah, that was Big 12. Texas Tech is on the DraftKings Sportsbook, minus 130. BYU plus 425. Cincinnati plus 450. Houston 1500.
See,
That's
that makes no
crazy.
sense because
No
I would.
sense.
What was Utah again?
Plus 2000. That's
John, that's
crazy.
strange value.
Yeah, I don't know. I just get scared that Vegas knows something. But Cincy, man, Cincy's like
Since he's
creeping
good,
around right now. They're
since he's really
creeping.
really good, and
No one's
their
talking about him.
single loss is actually looking even better with
Was
every
that
or
what Nebraska first game
Nebraska.
of the season? Like
Yeah,
now they've ripped off what, like 7 or 8 straight wins right now, and some
yeah,
quality wins.
really really good. They're playing Utah this week.
It should be fun. It's
And
gonna be really fun.
surprise, that is my Cheesecake Factory pick of the week. I think Cincy's legit, and I think we need to start respecting their name. But it's impressive, what they were able to do. Moving to another formerly Big 12 team, Mizzou Mizzou was formerly the Big 12, right?
Yep, you're correct. So Vanderbilt 17, Mizzou 10. Initial
Awesome
thoughts
game.
on this game?
Awesome game.
No, awesome game. The only thing was, it was just a real bummer, Bo getting hurt.
Yeah,
And like, I don't want to take anything away from Vanderbilt because that was still a gutsy win. But man, it just felt different after you went out. Like that's just something you're gonna think about at the end of that game. Like, what if he was healthy? Blah 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 blah. But still, Vanderbilt keeps rolling. Mizzou, I still think is a really great football team. We talk a lot about like what helps a backup quarterback. And I think just a sound running game does. And I think Zoller's the guy that's stepping up. He's like a highly highly touted out of high school guy, Max Zoller. He's going to be good for Mizzou, but I think it's really going to help him just leaning on Ahmad Hardy through the rest of the season.
Yeah, I think Mizzou could get a New Year's Day 6 type game. I think they're a really, really good team. I just don't think the playoff is in their position anymore. Tough schedule. Everyone thought that they had an easy one. I disagreed. But that was a gritty game. And what I'm taking from that is Vanderbilt had a top 17 or top 20 defense in the nation, and everyone was questioning the reliability of that. Like, who have they played? And Mizzou was averaging like 140 yards rushing a game, and they completely shut them down. So I'm starting to kind of – I've been riding the Vandy train. I still think they're going to dominate Texas at Texas this year. That's all they got to do is to make the playoffs is win this Saturday. But I'd love to see what Diego Pavia did. I like to see him respond off his tough games. I still think that offense has something to be desired. I don't know if they're good enough to compete with the big ones, but then again, they were 2 possessions away from Alabama before that last score. I do think that Vanderbilt is a really good team. I think that they can make a splash in the playoff if they can get there. Moving on to Bama, South Carolina. What are you taking from that game?
I'm taking that it's a shame that I think this game, Lenore Sellers will be remembered for that fumble. And I think that's a bummer because I think he played well in that game. And I think that was a very, very close game. My biggest takeaway is it's been amazing to see how good Bama has improved throughout this season. Like they lose to Florida State. We wrote Kalen DeBoer off. People were like leaving market baskets in Tuscaloosa saying like just older. You saw that viral clip, older woman just being like, fire DeBoer, fire DeBoer, fire DeBoer. Man, this guy's turned the season around. And Ty Simpson he's looked legit. He's a Nick Saban guy. Like just a backup for years. And you don't really see backups really succeed anymore in the transfer portal. But I don't know, this Bama team's legit. And we talk about it every week, I still just don't really like how unsuccessful they've been in the running game. But still, man, you got to give them credit for that win.
I just think that they're going to hit their roadblock when they come against a team with incredible defensive lines, such as Texas Tech, such as Utah, such as Ohio State, Oregon. I think it's going to play a factor in those games. And I think, they're going to be huge favorites against some of these teams, and they're going to struggle immensely against those said teams.
I just think the one thing that helps them so much is they're probably the team in the country closest to Ohio State from a perspective of just a receiving core. Like that trio of Horton, Jeremy Bernard, and of course Ryan Williams. Like, how do you cover that? Like, that's so tricky. Like,
imagine how bad it would be if they actually had RPOs, as an option. It'd be unbelievable. Really quick, Indiana absolutely dominated UCLA. Indiana looks unbelievable. They look good on all facets of the game. They
Wagon.
defended that fake punt tremendously. That
Have
was
you
just awesome. Moving
have
on
you
to Ole Miss and OU.
yes.
Go
Wait,
ahead.
I just want to say one
Yes.
thing. Have you
Yep.
seen the people on Twitter and social media getting angry that they put in Mendoza's younger brother and people think it's him? People think like Indiana's just running up the score late in games by keeping, but it's because they just see Mendoza, but it's actually
Jeez,
Mendoza's younger brother playing. It's like
that's
hilarious.
funny. I did not know that.
Yeah, no, it's a good
That's
tip.
awesome.
It's something to keep to look forward to in
Yeah.
some more Indiana blowouts. But yeah, going on this Ole Miss Oklahoma game, unbelievable. It was the game I was
Awesome
most
game.
tuned into all day.
Awesome game.
Me and Mickey got Mickey to sit down and watch it. Mickey was loving it, man. She was loving the Rebels. Like this Ole Miss team looks legit.
That powder
That
blue.
that offense is awesome.
Yeah.
Trinidad Chambliss is so electric. They spread the ball out. Lane's being a mastermind offensively. But I also wouldn't take anything away from this Oklahoma team's good, and I think they're not going to be ranked when the season ends just because of how hard the rest of their schedule is. But this is a really good John Mateer-led Oklahoma team.
See, I think it's a very mediocre team. I think that this team would look good maybe in the Big 12 again, or maybe they would be winning in the ACC. But, I thought they were massively overhyped. You and I talked in great detail about how stupid the line was. And, I think that there's levels to everything, right? And I think that there are certain levels to defenses where if you're a truly elite defense, teams are going to struggle to score against you. And there's no doubt about that. Teams are going to struggle to score. And I thought OU was incredibly fraudulent. I did not think that they were at that elite level. I thought they were a good defense, but even good defenses can let up a couple plays. Those plays lead to touchdowns, and before you know it, you're down 3 scores. And I thought Ole Miss looks the part. I think that they let that Georgia game get away from them. It's going to bite them in the butt when it comes to the rankings. But I think they're a really, really good team. I don't think that they're going to hold on to this win long, if that makes any sense. I know they have a tough game this upcoming week. I don't think that this Oklahoma win really means anything to the coaches or the players. I just think their biggest problem is staying focused, right? Lane Kiffin is selling like hotcakes. Everyone wants a piece of him, and that's got to be distracting for both him and his players.
Yeah, and he left the field saying, like, yelling to the student section, I'm staying. I don't know if he is. That's something to talk about.
I could see all three. I think the most badass route is for him to stay at Ole Miss. How dope would that be if LSU's like, hey, Lane, here's $15 million a year. And Florida's like, we'll match that 15 plus this. And he's like, no, I'm staying home. Like,
That would be awesome.
Here. His daughter goes there. I believe he has family out there. That's remarkable. I kind of see that's where it's going. I don't see a world.
I hope
I disagree with this. You and I disagree with this incredibly hard. I don't think the gap between these major programs is as big as it used to be.
I think it is.
If you're pulling John Summerall out of Tulane for Penn State, that's a different story. If you're pulling someone out of a pretty good Ole Miss school and institution to Florida, it's a lot harder.
I think the gap's bigger than you think it is between Florida and Ole Miss. I know Ole Miss is better right now, and Lane has some.
I would say maybe Mizzou in Florida. I would say maybe Mizzou and LSU. But I'm not saying Ole Miss is he's going to have 3 10-win seasons in a row, right? Yeah, they spent the most in NIL last year. So you're telling me that there's already resources in play there, right? They spent the most in NIL in 2024.
Yeah, I don't know. I just think Florida's just I don't know. They're just more of a powerhouse.
I think that's your age. That's talking.
You're
the
same. You're older than me.
That's what I'm saying.
So you think
you're remembering old Florida. Florida has not been the powerhouse since you and I were in middle school.
Yeah, but I think you can reignite that.
I do too. But what I'm saying is I think that to restart at a riskier job, what I'm doing if I'm a head coach, and I would be very, very remiss to believe that any of these coaches are not doing this, is they're not going to sit down and say, Brian Kelly was a good coach. James Franklin was a good coach. Billy, not a great coach, but he had some good successes there at times. Their coaches are incredibly quick to get fired right now. He would never get fired from Ole Miss unless there was some kind of scandal. And, his legend is there in Ole Miss if he wants it to be. So I'd be really led hard to believe that some of these coaches aren't going to look at these jobs like LSU and be like, if I don't immediately win and I don't immediately take this team to playoffs, and if I don't immediately compete for the SEC championship, then I'm already on talks of being on the hot seat when I can do all the exact same things just as easy at Ole Miss, which has been proven, right? It's not a fluke. He's on his third year in a row. I can do all those things at Ole Miss and not even be in those conversations.
Yeah, but you got to think about who we're talking about here. Context is everything. This is the guy that went to Tennessee for a single year and just ditched to go to USC. Like just ditched him to go to a bigger what he thought was a bigger program. And at the time it was USC. I'm just saying.
I don't think that's the same Lane Kiffin.
Link, I don't know, man. A leopard can't change his spots, man. He's the same guy. He's the same guy. I don't know. But we got to move on. We got a lot to talk about today. The last game I just want to mention. We don't need to break it down. It's just Memphis 34, USF 31.
Yeah, that's a huge. Is disgusting.
That's a huge game just for playoff implications. Like those are two awesome teams. In Memphis, it was a bummer losing to UAB, but man, just bouncing back. Like USF's a very good team. Obviously beating Boise, obviously beating Florida. I know they kind of got waxed by Miami, but that's a very talented USF team. So that's a big win for Memphis moving forward. And it's going to mean a lot for the playoff.
Yeah, no, I think that AAC, we talk about the Big 12 being chaotic. We talk about the SEC being chaotic. Everyone's assuming that AAC is getting that playoff team out of the non-power four school conferences. And I don't disagree, but I think they're going to eat themselves alive. You know, you're forgetting about two teams that are really good in there. North Texas is a really good football team.
Yep.
Navy is a really good football team.
You scared?
You know, I think Navy is a great pick. I would not be surprised.
No, I'm saying you got to play Navy.
Oh, I'm never scared of Navy. God bless their hearts, but thank you to our troops.
That was so disrespectful to the troops.
No, it wasn't. I said thank you to our troops.
You said it after that. You didn't say it before.
They don't belong on the same field as our Fighting Irish.
Damn it.
Really quick, Johnny. You know, I'm finally catching up. It feels good. I still can't get on the board with my Cheesecake Factory picks.
Yeah, another big win. Another big win for me. Yeah,
that's bullshit, but nonetheless.
No, it's not because you stole a pick from me like 2 weeks ago, and then I stole this pick. I
have led in the fourth quarter on my Cheesecake Factory pick of the week now 3 times in a row. All 6+ point opportunities. Northwestern blew that game. Currently, you have 11. Cheesecake Factory picks. I pray that you will offer me some mercy when it comes to that restaurant. But
I have a winner.
We have now picked up 53 games, Johnny.
Yep.
We are both negative. We are both losing money this year. Which is
losers.
Ugly.
We're losers.
You're 26 for 53. I'm 25 for 53. I'm closing that gap quickly.
Yep.
We have 9 games to go over this week. We're not going to jump into those yet. I know you have a couple of prompts you want to talk about.
Yes. Wait. Do you want to do AP poll first?
Yeah, sure. The AP poll. So, you know, I'm going to quickly read our AP poll, and I want you to point out anything that sounds fishy. I think, and for the record, I think that 1 through 10 are, I don't disagree. There's not an ounce of me that disagree. So for our listeners who are not looking, we have Ohio State at 1, Indiana, A&M, Alabama, Georgia, Oregon, Ole Miss, Georgia Tech at 8, Vandy at 9, BYU at 10, tied at 10, Miami, Notre Dame at 12, Texas Tech at 13.
How do you have a tie? I hate that. I hate.
Well, I know it's a point system, but
I get it, but I just hate it. I hate that they do ties.
We have Tennessee at 14, 15's Virginia, very, very sneaky. That one North Carolina State loss is biting them in the butt incredibly. If they were 8-0 right now, they'd be a top 10 team.
They have an easy schedule too.
They do. It's cake, and this is going to screw. Notre Dame's not going to make the playoffs this year, and it's going to be because of how weird the ACC is. Louisville, Cincy, Oklahoma, Mizzou, Texas at 20, Michigan at 21, Houston, USC, Utah, and Memphis closes out at 25. Some teams that receive votes: Navy was the highest, receiving 86 votes. Tulane, Washington, Iowa. It's disrespectful not to include Washington in the top 25. That is one of my biggest ones. That's embarrassing. That team is really good. They're finally clicking on all cylinders. I think Jedfish is out of there, unfortunately.
Yeah.
Excuse me.
I agree with that.
But, the AP poll is so interesting. And for our listeners who forgot, AP stands for absolutely preposterous. USC didn't play last week. USC did not play last week, Johnny, and then now they're in the top 25. And I get it. Some teams get bumped out of it, and, it's so facto, but explain that to me, right? We're saying, hey, you are a good enough team to be in the top 25 only if other teams are not good enough.
Yeah, no, it's crazy. I think Cincy should be a little
It
higher.
makes no sense. I think Iowa should be in there. I disagree that I could argue that Texas belongs at 20, and I could also argue that they belong at 30. I'm a little bit of a Texas hater. My expectations for them were incredibly high. I was really rooting for the, what was it? Sam Ehlinger screamed "We're back" after beating Georgia that one year.
Yeah.
I've been waiting for that moment. Not getting it. I think Navy is incredibly disrespected. I know that they were one of the first out, but I think that they should be on this list. Big game against North Texas, a 1-touchdown underdog for them. And then I think San Diego State should be very, very close to being in the top 25. They're not even on the list.
I like that, Pat.
Oh, no, excuse me. They got 14 votes. Very comparable. South
Group of
Florida got
five,
22.
stand up.
LSU got 11. I thought, like I said, 1 through 10 were really good. Ohio State, Indiana, A&M, Bama, Georgia, Oregon, Ole Miss, Georgia Tech, Vandy, BYU, Miami. I thought all of those I agree with tremendously. With that being said, it would be wrong for me not to admit to myself that Notre Dame would beat 6 out of those 10. I think that's undeniable. And I think when you take a step back and realize that,
six is so much, Patch. Six is
Johnny.
So
that's they're the Miami team that they're playing tomorrow is not the same Miami that they played on week 1. They're beating that team. I think they're. I think they are. They are wiping the floor with BYU, wiping the floor with Vandy. I think they're wiping the floor with Georgia Tech. I think they're competing immensely with Ole Miss. I think they're beating Oregon. I think that they're beating Georgia.
No, dude, no. Ohio State, Indiana, A&M.
I don't see anyone that competes with Notre Dame, and I truthfully mean this. Like, hold on,
you're delusional.
If we get into the playoffs, this year's Notre Dame team is better than last year's. Besides our defensive line, if we can get into the playoffs, we're going to make a bigger splash this year than we did last year. That's all I want to say on that. I don't want to dive into. I think
your secondary is better. Your secondary was better last year.
Yeah, arguably.
What? Yeah. Xavier Watts.
Christian Gray is really good. I think it's Moorhead is the safety. I do truly. Yeah, go ahead.
For our 5 listeners, I just need to say
5.
I'm joking. It was a joke.
We had 33 views last week.
I know, it's huge. That's huge.
Show some respect.
Thank you to everyone. But I'm just saying, for our listeners, I have to say I disagree with everything you just said. But that's just for the listeners.
Johnny,
that's fine. That's fine.
I might drive down. I might drive down and beat you up because this is getting out of control.
You're gonna love the hater picks this week. I just gotta say that right now. You're gonna
sick. This shit pisses me off.
I'm just saying you're disrespecting. Okay, Ohio State, Indiana, A&M, Bama.
Johnny, we lost on a missed penalty in a missed PAT in a lucky 50-50 ball against the number 3 team in the nation. But yet we're not allowed to say we can beat the You're telling me that A&M wouldn't be favored against 6 out of those 10.
A&M?
Yes.
I don't know. I'd have to like really look at that.
The quick answer is yes. And it's crazy to me that you won't admit it to yourself, even though we lost by a singular play, a missed holding call, a missed extra point, and then a 50-50 ball. But yet we can't admit to ourselves that this Notre Dame team is incredibly talented and could be in the top 10. And that could be argued that we could be a top 5 team.
No, do you know what? I'm really happy you're saying this because I've been trying to tell you this all week. You're so focused on the Penn State coaching carousel. And all week I've just been saying to you, dude, you got to focus.
You don't want to go down this road, brother.
No, I'm just saying you got to focus on Notre Dame, and I'm glad you're finally focusing on Notre Dame because
I am focused.
You've been so distracted. You got to focus on ND.
Because I know what's in front of us. We're gonna beat BC by 60 on Saturday.
Okay, that doesn't, dude. BC sucks. Why don't you go to the game? No, I've always hated BC. I've always hated BC. I'm a BC hater, even though Jack Jones got his master's there. But why aren't you at the game, man? It's in New England.
Tickets were costly.
I bet they're cheap now, though.
I saw them online for like $260 a pop.
What? No way. At BC.
That's what I saw most recently. Yeah.
Damn, that's crazy. Okay, moving on.
Yep.
Is that all for the AP?
That's all for the AP.
Okay, let's go to some winners and losers. Not a huge segment today. First, we'll start with winners. First off, Georgia Tech, man. 8-0. Brent Key. The vibes are awesome there. First time being at least 7-0 since 1966. Lyndon B. Johnson was the president. Who was Lyndon B. Johnson, man? We didn't even talk about Lyndon B. Johnson. That was the last time they were 7-0. Let's go. Georgia Tech, the rambling wreck, hell of an engineers. Let's go, GT. And next, even though they lost, one of my winners of the week is Wisconsin. Because when Oregon came out with the Grateful Ducks unis, I thought they were going to hang 75 points on Wisconsin. And that was a weird game. The fact that it was 21
I think if anything, you should be more the winner of the week would be hurricane season because I heard it was torrential downpour for the entire game.
Oh, yeah. And Dante Moore got hurt. They had walk-on Brock Thomas. That was sick. Seeing a walk-on get in, always so sick. But yeah, no, that is it. The weather was crazy, but I'm just saying those unis were amazing. We didn't talk about last. Awesome. I just thought they were going to hang a lot more on them. So Wisconsin kind of hung tough. And then I got one loser. It's kind of like a loaded loser, but my one loser for the week is SEC home field advantage.
Yep.
Ole Miss going into Oklahoma, A&M going into LSU, Bama going into South Carolina, Texas going into Mississippi State. I thought the SEC, like we had Death Valley, Norman, Oklahoma. I don't know. I forget the name of the South Carolina stadium, but I'm just saying, like, I thought these were supposed to be like these huge, like home field advantage places, and all four just getting beat at home. That kind of sucks. But the SEC home field advantage lost the weekend. Vandy stand up. They stood tough at home.
Yeah, no, they played awesome. First game in the finished arena. It looked beautiful. That place was absolutely rocking.
Okay, so for the next segment, we're gonna talk about the playoff picture. Really go into it. Did you want to talk coaching first, or do you want to go into that?
No, I'll talk about it as we go. I want our fans to understand my standpoint a little bit on the coaching carousel, and the reason that I want to talk about it is that we've already dived into it, and I won't take too much of your time here. Is that I think the coaching carousel is going to get incredibly ugly for a lot of different ways. Is that coaches that are getting fired are going to struggle to find good jobs. Yes, there's a surplus of jobs, but I'd be very, very surprised to see certain coaches getting any of those jobs. Billy Napier is not going to coach this year. There's also coaches who have come out and said they want to be coaching again. Ed Orgeron wants to be coaching again. Dan Mullen's not going to be at UNLV next year.
I would love Dan Mullen. I would love Dan Mullen.
His name's getting thrown around. And it's just interesting to me. And, I think in today's day and age of transfer portal, NIL and things like that, the gap between these Power 4 schools is incredibly thin, to the point where if you are a good lobbyist, you could get some serious money out of Arkansas. And before you know it, what if we're talking about Arkansas the same way we're talking about Ole Miss? A job that's probably 5th, maybe 6th on people's rankings this year could suddenly in the next 5 years be number 1 or 2. And, it's interesting to see, and I think one of the reasons why this coaching carousel is going to explain a lot about the day and age of college football is that we're going to see coaches be hesitant to take LSU for the first time in history, right? They're going to see what Brian Kelly went through during their hard times. They're going to see what Billy Napier went through, what Luke Fickell went through, what, in the list goes on and on, Coach Norvell, Hugh Freeze, such tough environments, win now or we're firing you, that, you'd almost be hesitant to leave your program that you have settled in. But I do think coaches like James Franklin are going to get jobs.
Yeah.
I think Luke Fickell will, those jobs are going to keep opening up for them. But, I could see Brian Kelly's career being done. I'd be very, very surprised for him getting a job again.
Yeah, I think you made a great point earlier in the pod when you were saying, like, how you exit matters. Like James Franklin, it was a decade-long relationship with Penn State. Really good times, some really bad times. But for the most part, people still respect him as a coach. I think Billy Napier and Brian Kelly have lost a lot of respect as coaches just because of how the times were. There's not many, like there's more bad times than good times for both those guys. And I think that really hurts you going forward.
Yeah, but, I know that you're very, very excited for whatever Penn State coach gets next. And I think it's going to be a great hire. I think that they're being very, very thoughtful. The fact that they haven't named anyone publicly is a huge step for them. But I am a little bit concerned that there are a lot of jobs open and there are a lot of people who you have eyes on and Penn State fans have eyes on that aren't going to leave the SEC or aren't going to leave their program. For instance, if anyone wanted Marcus Freeman, I don't know if the grass is greener for any program than what Marcus Freeman has going at Notre Dame.
Yeah, no. I think Mark. I think all the big guys will stay, and we've debated so much this during the
Yeah.
week, you and me. Like, I think all the big guys are going to stay, like Sig, Freeman, all those guys, but like Lanning. But when you say those names, you got to think about where those guys came from. That's what I was talking to you about this week. Like Sig came from a smaller school. Freeman was a coordinator. Dan Lanning was a coordinator. You could even say Mario Cristobal. I know he was at Oregon, but where was he before Oregon? He was an offensive line coach and head of recruiting at Bama. And I think that's what these schools are gonna have to dip into. Like not a big name guy or a guy on the rise, like a Dan Lanning when he was the D coordinator at Georgia, or like a Marcus Freeman. I know that was in-house, so it's a little different, or Sig coming from JMU. So I think guys like
I think
Brian
the
Hart.
stakes are way too high for them to possibly risk themselves with a
You
coach
think
that's.
I don't know. Oregon did it though.
Oregon was
Huge.
Oregon was in a little bit of a lull at the time.
I don't know. Mario Cristobal had some really good seasons there. I don't know. All I'm saying is I think you're going to see guys like Brian Hartline and Brent Key and Clark Leah and Will Stein. Like these guys get these jobs, and I think it's going to be really cool to see these guys get big opportunities.
No, I'm with you. I'd rather see these offensive coordinators and defensive coordinators. We haven't talked about Matt Patricia at all. I think
You
he
love
could
Matt
be on the
Patricia,
front.
yeah.
I mean, he's doing a hell of a job. It's just
Hell
showing
of a
how good
job.
he had a tough situation in Detroit, and everyone, because that stupid video of him riding an ATV went viral. No one respects him as a coach anymore.
Which is insane.
And you know, I think that he could be a really good college coach. He's just not getting enough respect there. But you know, we have talked about it. I am a little bit concerned that some of these coaches are going to go for the big names. Those big names are not going to leave, and then they're going to, you know, go public. Very similarly to what happened at Texas A&M, where their fans basically were like, "If you hire Mark Stoops, we will burn Texas to the ground." And you know, that can get really ugly. The same way when Marcus Freeman struggled to hire Mike Denbrock before the 2024 season, we couldn't find an OC if our life depended on it, and that is incredibly frustrating for a fan base. It's incredibly frustrating for the university. It can be very ugly, but I would just be surprised. In my head, I'm thinking LSU is a great job. Florida, unbelievable job. Auburn, it's not open yet. It will be a great job. Oklahoma next year will be a great job. You know, it's just I would look at it as someone who's probably a bit of a pessimist and say, you know, if I went there, the expectations are so incredibly high that it would be hard to amass to anything more than what, you know, they're already expecting. But you know, we'll visit that as it comes. I think that the coaching carousel is going to be crazy. I think that this offseason is going to be unbelievable. The numbers that are going to be flying for what these guys are going to be making per year is going to be sickening. But let's move on, Johnny. You want to talk playoffs?
Yeah, let's do playoffs. So right now, I based this segment off an article I read on ESPN about teams that they thought were in already if the season ended today, and teams that are close or like on the cusp and they could do work to get in. So I've got everything written down. I've got teams in both those categories for every conference, independent and group of five. And among those teams, I kind of organized how many losses each of them have and their biggest opponents. So you name a conference, I'll start. So I'm going to name you teams that are in, teams that are close, and how you feel about that picture. So where do you want to start? What conference?
We'll start in the big one. We'll start in the SEC. I think that there's two teams that are in the playoffs right now.
Okay.
Maybe three.
They actually gave me 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. If the season ended today, they named 5, and then they have a couple close ones. So of the 5 are
there's no way the SEC is sending 5, but
I'm just saying if it ended today, this is what it would look like: Bama, Georgia, Ole Miss, A&M, Vandy.
Yeah, I agree with every single one of them. We need something to happen for that to break. You know, I could very well see the SEC getting 4, the Big Ten getting 3, ACC or Big 12 getting 2, Notre Dame Power 4. But I think the SEC gets the most.
Yeah, so all those teams have one loss except for A&M obviously has 0. They all have a couple tough games down the stretch. Like Bama has LSU, Oklahoma, Auburn, Georgia, Texas, Georgia Tech. That Georgia Tech game is going to be awesome. It's going to mean a whole lot.
It's going to be, you know, absolutely disgusting, Johnny, because what happens if Georgia Tech wins that game and then goes and loses the ACC title?
They're in. They're in.
I know they are. I know they are.
They
but
set the precedent last year with SMU Clemson. Like they have to be in.
That would be a remarkable one. But then you're looking at Georgia and you're like, well, they have 2 losses, one of which is to a non-SEC opponent. But like then again, they would probably still make the SEC championship if that's their only other loss.
No, you should be thinking, what if they lose to Georgia? Like you said, they beat Georgia and then lose the ACC. They could lose to Georgia, lose the ACC championship, and still be in. Because if they lost to Georgia in the regular season, that's 1 regular season loss. Like I can go there the rest of their season, their 2 hardest games.
But the conference championship does matter in terms of getting in.
No, but I'm saying, so if you're Georgia Tech, so let's go to the ACC right now. ACC, they have Georgia Tech and Miami in right now, and they have Virginia and Louisville that are on the cusp. So Georgia Tech, no losses right now. The 2 hardest games the rest of the season are Georgia and Pitt. I think they're going to beat Pitt, and I think you'd agree with me on that. So what if they lose to Georgia? They'll still make the ACC championship because there'll be 0 ACC losses, and they lose the ACC championship. They still could be in because that's a 1-loss regular season team that only lost to Georgia, who Georgia's projected to be in. And that's
I think that would get incredibly ugly depending on who the team is they lost. If they lost to Miami, yes. If it's a weird world where somehow Duke makes the ACC championship, then it's a different story. But
I'm not counting out Louisville and Virginia. Virginia,
I'm not.
loss.
What I'm saying is that if somehow the other team that gets in is a 2-loss team, right? Because the ACC is incredibly weird because I feel like no one plays each other.
No one.
Georgia Tech and Miami don't play each other. I don't think Virginia plays Georgia Tech. Like it is such a weird conference in terms of their schedule. I think it's just because they play some out of conference games that are just I don't know how to describe it, but I think that in a world where Georgia Tech loses to Georgia and then loses in the ACC championship, they are out. And I mean that. I think that's 2 consecutive losses.
I don't know.
They're not going to be putting in a team that's cooling off.
I don't know. But think about this. The ACC is going to be a huge factor in how many teams each conference gets.
Do you want that team in, though, Johnny?
I don't know if it's at that point, it's not about what I want. It's about like what teams have proven. Because listen to me for a second. Ride with me for 1 second.
In that world.
No, but ride with me for 1 second. So right now in the ACC, we got Georgia Tech 0 losses, Miami with 1 loss to Louisville, right? Yeah, Louisville. Yeah, sorry. I've got so many teams bouncing around in my head right now. And then you got 2 teams on the cusp. Virginia, 1 loss. Louisville, 1 loss. None of those teams.
The Virginia loss, I don't think is technically in conference. That NC State loss, I don't think is an in conference loss. It's very weird.
Yeah, didn't they play? Yeah, it was like so stupid, stupid.
Is it NC
like
State?
No, it is, but they played like an out of conference game, which is like so dumb. Even though they're in conference, I don't get how that works. The politics of college football we could debate for hours.
Yeah,
but those 4 teams I just named, none of those teams play each other the rest of the season. So they can all win out. Besides Georgia Tech, they have to play Georgia. Obviously, it's going to be a really hard game. That was that game that went to like 1 million overtimes last year.
Yeah.
Like that was cinema. But I'm just saying, like, that's chaos.
No,
that's chaos in the ACC.
That is true chaos. And the ugly part of it is I think it's ugly chaos in the sense of, I don't want to see 2 ACC teams in the playoff this year, but we're going to. I'd rather see 2
last year. Because I didn't want 2 last year in SMU and Clemson.
Yeah, and they were both butt cheeks. And literally the first round of the playoffs was like a terrible week of football. And everyone knew it, but the committee didn't have enough balls to admit it to themselves.
Yeah. Okay, let's go to another chaos conference, Big 12. Yeah. So ready
Big
for
12.
me? So ready? Yeah. So in right now, if the season ended,
Texas Tech, BYU.
No, so right now they only had BYU. They had this is easier too. I can name you all 12 teams if you want that. But right now in the Big 12, they have BYU, no losses, but they have to play Texas Tech and Cincy. Then close, you have Texas Tech, 1 loss, Cincy, 1 loss, Houston, 1 loss. And Houston ends the season.
They don't even have Utah on that list?
No, because they already have 2 losses. So Houston right now has to play. Their 2 hardest games the rest of the way is TCU, Baylor.
Houston got freaking dominated though by Texas Tech.
But I'm just saying they're sitting with 1 loss. Like that's hard to keep them out. That's hard to keep. I'm just saying, like this is the age-old college football debate. It's like what's
going to happen is we're going to see an undefeated BYU play Texas Tech again in the Big 12 championship, and Texas Tech will beat them. And now
But
they beat Texas Tech, and then Texas Tech beat them. Texas Tech is automatically in, and then obviously you have to put BYU in because they beat Texas Tech in the regular season. So they're 1-1 against Texas Tech.
what about Cincy? Cincy has no conference losses. They lost Nebraska early in the season.
Yeah.
They have Utah. They end the season with Utah and BYU. Like the ACC and the Big 12, you can say all day long both those conferences don't deserve multiple teams in, but they might get it just based on chaos.
Yeah, I mean, I truly think that the chaos will calm down. I think that things will play out the way we kind of anticipate, where we're not going to see a world where BYU goes undefeated and then loses in the Big 12. I just don't see it. I hope I don't see it because I don't want to deal with the chaos. I don't want a world where the SEC gets 4, the Big 10 gets 3, the ACC gets 2, which will put us at 9, and then the Big 12 gets 2, and then we get a Power 4. I don't want to see that. I don't want to see that. I don't want to see second place teams get in simply because they played in a conference championship, because that null and voids every single thing I've argued for the last 10 weeks.
Yeah, I don't know, but we can move on to the Big 10.
If that's the case, if it truly goes 4-3-2-2, there's no doubt in my mind Notre Dame is going to join the ACC and win the ACC every single year for the rest of my life.
Well, you know what? Then I hope that happens, because I want them to just join.
I want them to stay on NBC. I want them.
I know that I know, and I get that being a fan. But you said earlier that the ACC is going to screw Notre Dame, and my only response to that is just join the ACC and win it. Then, like, you guys could win the ACC, just join it and win it. I don't know. You don't
want to see them play USC anymore.
You might not make the ACC championship. You guys lost to Miami already, and then Georgia Tech's undefeated. The ACC championship is probably going to be Georgia Tech, Miami. So then you would be the third girl at the dance there. No. That's what I'm just saying. I'm just saying. No. I'm just saying right now, if you were in the ACC,
just move on to the Big 10, old man.
Okay. First of all, you're older than me. The second time this podcast, whatever. Okay, Big 10 in right now: Indiana, Ohio State, Oregon.
Yeah. I would agree with that. And I don't think there's a fourth team that's in the fight. Some people talk about Nebraska, and then, they got the floor wiped with them by Minnesota. I think that there are teams out there that are really good. And this is the problem with the playoff era right now, is that, like, it's make the playoff or you're bust. Washington, Illinois, Iowa. I still think USC is a good team. I really do think that USC is a good team.
Love USC.
But, it's unfortunate, but I don't think the Big 12 gets it, or excuse me, the Big 10 gets in 4 teams.
So they named a couple teams that, they have the possibility just based on how the schedules shake out. And that was Iowa, Michigan, USC, and Washington, just based on the teams they play. Like, a lot of those teams play each other. Like, they could knock off an Oregon.
What was the last one? Michigan, you said?
No, it was Iowa, Michigan, USC, Washington. So all those teams have 2 losses, but if they win out, they could get into the Big 10 championship. So that was.
Who do you think has the best odds if they were to get a 4th team in? Who do you think it is?
So Iowa has to play Oregon, USC, Nebraska. They'll drop 1. Michigan has to play Maryland, Ohio State. They're going to lose. You think they would lose to Ohio State this year, but that's always weird. USC has to play Oregon, Nebraska, Iowa, and Washington has to play Oregon, UCLA. I guess I would say either Michigan or Washington. Just because Michigan just has to play Maryland or Ohio State, Washington just has to play Oregon, UCLA. If either one of those teams can beat their rival, they're probably in. Like, if Michigan can beat Ohio State,
I think the answer, Johnny, is spitting us in the face. I think it's Iowa. It's a 5-point loss to Indiana, a really, really, really close game, and then their only other loss is against Iowa State in one of the toughest rivalries in college football.
I don't know. I'm a Penn State fan. Penn State's hobbled right now, especially offensively. And I watched that game, and man, Iowa, it's always a tough watch, but Iowa's offense is such a tough watch. And do I think they're going to outscore Oregon, USC, and Nebraska? Like, I think they drop 2 of those. I don't know. That's just me.
I think they go 2-1, and then the argument's there. But that's just me.
But that's 3 losses, and that would be that's 3 losses.
You're right.
So I think that's going to be I don't know. Group of 5 is kind of a shit show right now because
I bet they don't have anyone that's in right now.
Well, they have to have someone in because of
Okay.
just how it shakes out. Just because group of 5 is gets one auto bid, which I think is a good thing. But
It
right now, it would be Memphis, and I think that's
is.
correct.
I would agree with
But
that.
based on schedules right now, it's such a mess right now because you have Memphis in, but then you also have teams they mentioned. Boise State, 2 losses. James Madison, 1 loss. Navy, undefeated. North Texas, 1 loss. San Diego State, 1 loss. Tulane, 1 loss. UNLV, 1 loss. And then, they might be. I didn't actually write down the schedule. My bad. And then USF, 2 losses. So, like, a lot of teams very even with each other
Yeah.
there. But Memphis looks really good. I also wouldn't be disappointed with USF or North Texas or even
No.
James Madison. Like, and then
I
right
think
now,
JMU has the easiest path, Johnny.
yeah, totally. End of the season, they have 1 loss right now to Cincy, right? No, to Louisville,
Yeah.
and their 2 hardest games at the end of the season are App State and Coastal. Like they definitely could get in. That's
Yeah,
a
Coastal's terrible.
really good pull there. And then right now, out of the independents, obviously just Notre Dame, 2 losses. The hardest games of the season are Navy and Pitt. And they said as of right now they wouldn't be in, which I double checked that with the All-State playoff predictor. They give Notre Dame a 30% chance, and that's just because of the mayhem with the ACC and the
That,
SEC. Like the SEC
yeah,
getting 5 teams
yeah.
is bad for you. If the SEC,
I don't think the
I
thing
don't think
is
that'll happen right
no
now. It would happen,
because
but I don't.
the Greg Sankey and the commissioner of the Big Ten hate each other, and if the SEC got 5 teams, I'm telling you there would be shit would hit the fan like nothing we've ever seen.
Yeah, but you underestimate Greg because the devil works hard, but Greg
Yeah.
Sankey works harder. Greg Sankey's a menace to society, man. Like that guy is a bully in these
I
meetings.
know. I have a bad feeling we're not going to get in, but we're going to be arguably. My only thing, and I don't know if I'm allowed to say this publicly, is
Nice. Say it.
we're Notre Dame. We get the benefit of the doubt
Shut
more than
up.
any
I
dude.
hate you. You
Hold on.
suck.
Hold on. I'm throwing us under the bus here if you let me finish.
Sounds like it.
It's undeniable that we get the benefit of the doubt. Is that not true?
Yeah, you guys get
So
every
that's
role.
that's my only saving grace is that if there is a coin flip that we get into the playoffs, we're in the playoffs. It's funny because DraftKings has us at minus 330, which is implied odds of 70%.
But you live and die by the All-State playoff predictor.
I do. That's why I'm very
king.
conflicted.
That's crazy. Yeah. I don't know. So that's a playoff. So let's get into the week. We'll get into our picks, hater picks.
Yep. Hater picks. Yep. So we're gonna fly through these, Johnny, just real quick. We have Penn State. Beginning of the year, we thought this was going to be a 1-2 matchup. Penn State is heading to the Horseshoe. Ohio State is a 19.5 point favorite. I gotta take every point of that.
I think it's 20.5 right now.
Oh, geez, one up.
I'm taking Penn State to cover. Let's go.
Wounded dog. We got Vandy heading to Texas. I think this is a great bet. I think that Texas is just not a good team.
They're +3. They're -3 though, right?
Yeah. Yes. Texas is a field goal favorite, and that's just home field. So you're basically saying if they were at Mercedes-Benz Stadium or SoFi, that it would be a pick 'em, which I just couldn't disagree with more. Yes, I think they have an incredibly good defense, but I think Vandy has a really good defense. I don't see Texas scoring, and I see Diego Pavia finding a way to score. Give me Vandy.
So, just to clarify, what was your cheesecake pick?
Mine was Cincy. I think they upset Utah this week.
Okay, I'm really glad to hear you say that because my Cheesecake Factory of the pick of the week is Vanderbilt. Diego Pavia is the winner. I trust him way more than Arch Manning. Let's play this game just Diego and Arch fist fight, middle of the field. Let's everyone watch Game of Thrones style. I'm taking Vandy. I love them. I love Eli Stowers. I love Clark Leah. I think they win this game. I think I don't know if they're the more talented team, but I think they are the better team.
Where's College Game Day? Do you know off the top of your head?
I'm looking up. Talk about the next game while I find it.
So we have Georgia heading to the Swamp. I think the Gators have given up on the season. They're all concerned about, are they going to transfer? Are their checks going to bounce? I think Georgia is kind of catching their wind here. I like Georgia -7. I would even take them down to 10 if I had to.
Totally agree with you there, Georgia. I'm riding with you. College Game Days at Cincinnati, Utah.
Awesome. Love to hear that.
Awesome.
Oklahoma
Awesome.
is heading to Tennessee, Rocky Top. This is a welcome, my former team for Josh Heupel. I don't think Josh Heupel would even take the OU job if they offered him. I think he is got a sour taste in his mouth for OU. I think that this game is personal. Last year they didn't play great against OU. This year they will play great against OU. Tennessee minus 2.5 at home is insulting. I would take Tennessee minus 12 against OU. I think OU is reeling. Give me all of that.
Totally agree. Totally agree. I'm riding with Tennessee. I just want to do some breaking news right now. I just got the update. LSU parting ways with their athletic director, Scott Woodward. I think that is a very interesting thing for a couple of reasons.
Did they
First
hire
off,
a president yet? Like, who makes that decision?
I don't know, but Scott Woodward is also the AD that hired and negotiated the buyout with Jimbo Fisher. So that's back-to-back schools where he hired guys and then had these massive buyouts. I also think it's very interesting talking about the coaching carousel because I think this is a reason why LSU is a scary place for a coach to go to. Just because we saw this week, like the governor of Louisiana get involved, like I don't want that idea to pick. I think that's like
just means more, dude.
Like a crapshoot down south right now. That's weird times. But going back to I'm riding with Tennessee.
If you win a national championship as their coach next, you're going to go down as history better than anyone, just because of how much of a shit show it is. If you can go in there and then calm the storm, it would be unbelievable. You like Tennessee here. This one I'm confused on. Georgia Tech minus 5.5 at NC State. NC State has a couple of losses underneath their belt. You know, I thought Georgia Tech is another team that's just getting better. I thought their offense would have stalled out. It's done the opposite. They've dropped more than 40 points, I think, in the last 2 games. I gotta take that, but it seems like a trap game.
Seems like a trap. I'm with you. I'm going to ride with you there. It is interesting to note, though, that NC State is the only team to beat Virginia this year. That's like so they have some game. They can play, but that being said, I'm riding with Tech.
We have USC heading to Nebraska. I included this because our friend Will Compton, obviously a huge Nebraska guy, made a huge lecture about Nebraska coming back. Matt Rule signs a huge contract extension,
2 years,
up to like $15 million or something like that, you know, indicating he's not going for Penn State. He's not going for LSU, Florida, Auburn, Florida State. With that being said, I like USC. I think Mayava, is it Jordan Mayava?
Yep.
You know, is a really talented quarterback. I think that what they're doing, this is a game that they've had circled. This is a game that they're excited for. I know Nebraska sells out every stadium, but I like USC here, Johnny.
Yeah, I totally agree.
Cincy, Utah. I'm not even going to talk about it. I think Cincy wins this one. Utah is a 10-point favorite. Give me all those. I think they cover and win. Obviously, they're my big pick. This is a home run. I need this, you know, down 2 runs in the 9th at this point.
Yeah, no, I'm gonna take Cincy, but not to win. I'm just gonna take the points there. I think Utah's like I said every week, I love Kyle Whittingham. I think he's a really great coach. I think home field advantage does matter there. That's a great stadium. It's a beautiful city, but I think that's a lot of points to cover. So I'm gonna take Cincy, but I do think Utah's gonna win.
And then lastly, we have Navy at North Texas, a game you and I, both 2 teams that you and I have talked about. I'm picking Navy just to support the troops. I would love to see.
That's crazy. You hate the troops. You
I have to save grace, dude.
No, I'm with you. I'm the number 1 troops guy in this podcast, so I'm gonna have to ride with Navy.
Before we do our haters pick of the week, I have a 14 parlay that I absolutely love. It pays 15 to 1. If our listeners like to gamble, last week I hit a 7.5 to 1. So you are now talking to a $7,000 air. Yeah, I put $1,000 on it, made $7,000.
What?
A great day. Yep. So I have OSU minus 19.5. I love that line. I don't think Penn State scores more than 10 points in a world where I think OSU is going to score more than 30. The line just makes sense there. I like the Vandy money line, I like Georgia minus 7, Notre Dame minus 28.5. Just seems like the biggest lock in the history of locks. I could see this being a 55-5, 55-10, 55-15 type game. So that pays 15 to 1, 10 wins you $160.
Love it. So I got plus 739, 10 wins you $83. I got Vandy money line over Texas. I have Navy plus 6.5 at North Texas, and I have Texas Tech minus 7 against KSU. I really like all 3 of those games. You want to start with your haters before I get to
so Keith had a very mediocre week last week. You know, tough one with Iowa State. That was his best bet. They lost. Rocco Beck did not play great. He is done. I have fallen victim to blindly taking home underdogs. His best bet of the week is Texas at -3. Yes, Texas has looked subpar offensively, to say the least. But let's take a moment to applaud the defense that's been great all year, minus Florida. Texas at home. I did not like Vandy's offensive output last week in a few weeks prior versus Bama. Give me Texas in a low-scoring game, 23-13. Clemson -2.5 at home. Plug your nose. Clemson is ass, but I don't see Duke up to the challenge against Clemson's slightly improving defense. Notre Dame at BC. This is where I got my take. Thank you, Keith. Top 5 offense in the country. Thank you, Keith. Versus maybe the worst Power 4 team in the land. This one screams 49-10. Cal +5.5 versus Virginia. The Cinderella run for UV ends this weekend. Having to go west against a sneaky team, I got Cal outright. Tennessee -2.5 at OU. I've seen enough with OU. The magic is gone. Their playoff dreams end. They end late night in Rocky Top. Nebraska +6 versus USC. One of the things Keith and I disagree with tremendously is he's a big buy low, sell high guy. Nebraska will play one of the worst defenses they've seen all year, and I love me a team that can win the line of scrimmage in cold temps versus a West Coast team. He's really going at it. South Carolina +12.5.
Oh my, he's got a full slate for
Hawks this week. Almost 2 touchdowns is just too much against a really shaky Ole Miss defense. That's a hot take. And then Cincy +10.5 at Utah. This line doesn't make a lot of sense to me. Maybe a trap. I'm falling for it, but how can we get 10 points in a likely high-scoring contest that will remain within a possession in the fourth? Good luck to all.
Nice. Love it, Keith. I think actually for bowl season or playoff.
Can I add one more thing, Johnny? I forgot that he sent me a second text.
Yeah, this screams you just making something up right now, but yeah.
What the hell, dude?
What are you saying? I feel like you're just something gonna be crazy hate right now.
No. All I'm saying is I texted him after getting that text. I said Texas let up 35 points in Mississippi State. Quite the defense. He said, watch the tape. So he is a believer in that defense. That is not a made-up text, you peckerhead.
Oh, no. I thought it was going to be like something so anti-Penn State. It was crazy.
I'm all for Penn State, so joke's on you.
Okay. I love it. Okay. That actually made me think for bowl season of the playoffs, we might need to get both these guys on. But, okay, here, Matt, straight from the mouth of him, here's my hater dog picks of the week. Vandy +3.5. BC +28.5. Penn State +20.5. Cal +5.5. Second text. Bonus hater picks. Sprinkle Bill Belichick gets his first ACC win of the week against Cuse. I don't hate that.
No, that's not terrible. The BC pick is comical. I know you're a Massachusetts guy.
Yeah, I'm still good. I'm sorry. I still got.
Go ahead, Matthew.
And this is the best one. This is the best pick he gave me. Hammer. I repeat. Hammer under 1.5 weeks until the hosts of One in the Trenches podcast break up over Coach Carousel tension. Crazy hate from Matt Pittman this week. I want to go shout out him, but crazy hate.
Jokes on him. I'm going to take the over. I think we get to the end of the season because we are contractually obligated to do so.
Yes.
It's funny that you see that type of tension, Matthew. It's not there. We all have a lot of good respect for each other. With that being said, your Notre Dame picks are comical. I'll see you at the winner's circle when we are the national championships. And when I see you, I'm fighting you sight unseen, just so you know.
Awesome week. I'm really excited for the slate this week, Patch. We got some good ones. I think we got some good parlays, good cheesecake picks. I'm excited.
Yeah, I need to hit one, Johnny. I am so overdue. Best of luck. Not some great Friday games, but boy, 12 o'clock hits Saturday morning. I am going to be glued to the couch.
Awesome. See you, Patch.
See you, dude.